Right, 7 days to go. We have picked out a few teams that we think need to be very active before transfer deadline day. We're going to start with Leicester. Flex, big win yesterday,
Huge.
but do Leicester still need to strengthen in some areas to take them to the next level, really, because they are in a relegation
Of course,
dogfight.
they're in a relegation battle, and there's an absolutely massive win against Spurs, which Ruud van Nistelrooy will be elated with, but they won't want to rest on their laurels and think that's it. There's still so much work to do if they're going to stay in this division. I think a centre-back would be of good use. I mean, Wout Wees is having some struggles in there. Conor Cody not quite getting in there. So I think some options there would be good. James Justin as well at right-back has had some issues there. So I think some support there in those areas would be good. Obviously, just sign a right-back, which is good for that. But on the other side as well, left-back, still potential issues in that. And a forward, listen, Jamie Vardy is always up for goading opposition fans. He is their top scorer with 7 goals. He's still got it in the locker. However, he is still only human. And at this stage of his career, I still think some extra support there. Patson Daka hasn't quite hit the levels required. Edouard, that loan from Crystal Palace, has been pretty much a nightmare, not even getting into matchday squads under Steve Cooper or Ruud van Nistelrooy, really. So definitely issues there as well. I think midfield, they're pretty much set in central midfield. Some really good options in midfield, actually. So probably stacked there. So I'm going to say a centre-half, another full-back if possible, and a forward.
Yeah, and I'd just say as well, you know, with Jamie Vardy, yes, he's only human, and yes, he scored 7 goals, but he actually could score a lot more, I think, if he was being fed more from the wing. You know, just a little bit more attack and pace to feed into Vardy would be helpful.
It would. You say he's human. I'm not sure he is. The way he's playing at that age. Right, Wolves, Dan. Vitor Pereira says he's confident of 2 more signings. Jorgen Strand-Larsen, though, went off with it with what looked like a hamstring injury on the weekend. Do you expect Wolves to be pretty active in this final week?
Yeah, I mean, I think going into the window, they wanted a centre-back, which they've got with Agbadou, who looks like a promising addition. I think ideally the other 2 would be a centre-back again, an experienced centre-back to add, because they are playing this 3-4-2-1 formation. And he's been quite adamant when I've been in press conferences with him that he wants another midfielder, someone who can play in a 2, because he's really not convinced by the options he has at the moment. But I think after seeing Strand-Larsen go off with a hamstring injury, and I kind of thought this anyway, they needed another 9 to give him a bit of a rest. Of course, Cunha can play there, but really maybe it's not his best position. So I think another number 9 could be much needed before deadline day.
Strand-Larsen going off is not good for the suitors of Cunha either, is it?
Exactly.
Because it makes
puts even more emphasis to stay.
Keep him, yeah. Let's talk West Ham, Manny, because Graham Potter has admitted that they are a bit light up front as they search for a new striker. Sky in Germany report that the club are in advanced talks with RB Leipzig over the striker Andre Silva. West Ham had a bid rejected by Aston Villa for John Duran, long-term target. There is also interest in Evan Ferguson, Taiwo Awoniyi, Evan Gesson and Brian Brobby. As an aside, Juventus have reignited their interest in the West Ham defender Jean-Claire Todibo, who's only just arrived. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on as well. But do you expect West Ham to back the new manager up in these final few days of the window?
Yeah, I would expect them to. I know they spent quite a bit in the summer, but I feel like now they're in a position, especially with a new manager in, they need to get some momentum going now. So if you watch the game against Villa yesterday, you could see that if they had that sort of target to go for and someone for Paqueta to feed off maybe, it would have helped them in that situation. So definitely a forward is somewhere they should be looking at. I know they're looking at strengthening the midfield as well, but I think now it's time for them to push on. So could it be Andre Silva, who's someone that struggled for games and goals this season, had a couple of loans, but now I think it's the time where they need to put their front foot forward and go start getting up the table.
Yeah, I mean, of those names that we heard there, do you think any name would suit them in more than others? I mean, Ferguson perhaps, or Andre Silva?
I think generally Evan Ferguson just is worth taking a punt on for any Premier League club,
Absolutely.
really, around the league. I mean, if you can get him on a loan with an option just to see how he can fit, get him playing again. I think Brighton as well would quite appreciate the chance to give him game time, either see him again next season or just raise his value to look to sell him in the summer. Of course, he would be pure profit for them as well. So I definitely think he's worth giving a punt to. West Ham needs someone to play off of as that 9, and Ferguson could.
I think it'd be perfect. You know, if you think back to Graham Potter's time at Brighton, to me, I see Evan Ferguson as somebody who he would have worked with perfectly if you had him at that time. You know, he's big, he's strong, he's powerful, but he can play. he can play, and he's had a bit of a blip in his career quite early on through injuries and falling out of favour. But that little purple patch he had where there was just a little insight into what Evan Ferguson can be, and he was doing that at the age of 18 in the Premier League. There's something there. So I think for both, non-commit on a big fee, just to the end of the season. West Ham needs some options. Jarrod Bowen will be back, so they can bolster again. But I think it'd be fantastic move if Evan Ferguson gets to West Ham.
Let's finish with Everton, another side that actually got a really important win on the weekend, but came at a cost, didn't it? Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Oral Mangala, both going off with injuries. Does that really hasten the need now for Everton to do something? Again, they've got a new manager in it as well. Can they back him up in the next few days?
And just as Dominic Calvert-Lewin looked to be getting back to his old self, it really is such a shame. But as you rightly say, yeah, striker has always been the priority, I think, for Everton in this window. I mean, there was some talk about Broja maybe leaving because being recalled, going back to his parent club at Chelsea because of his 12-week injury, and then Keenan Dewsbury-Hall we talked about earlier, and Carney Chukwuemeka coming back in the other direction. That might go quiet now because it looks like Broja will be staying at Everton to go through his rehabilitation process there. That's an interesting one for me. I'm not too sure why that would be, because surely by freeing up Broja, one of their loan spots, Jack Harrison being the other one, would help them bring in a player on loan as a striker. Strange one, but at the same time, yeah, striker still definitely the place they need to strengthen. Can they do that, though, when the loan spots are filled?
All those teams around the bottom, you sense that they're going to be all busy to a certain extent.